Community Radio Kilkenny City, keeping you company on 88.7 FM.
Local access radio for you and your community group. This is Community Radio Kilkenny City.
Sarah O'Donnell, Communications Director with the Irish Securities Industries Association. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Morris, for inviting me on to speak about this topic.
You're very welcome, Sarah. Sarah, I believe there was an employment regulation order made on April 28th, which was to increase the pay rate, the hourly pay rate, to €12.05 per hour to security personnel, which on the face of it sounds all good, and I presume that combined with getting back to work post-pandemic and all the rest. But apparently it's not all good. There's a problem, is there?
There is a problem, unfortunately. The industry, along with other stakeholders, such as employee representatives, the unions, worked hard to negotiate a new employment regulation order. And as you rightly point out, in April of this year, Damien English, Minister for Business, Employment and Retail, approved that employment regulation order for the security industry, and that would have provided a pay increase for the sector. So all security officers would have seen an increased hourly rate of pay that would have gone up to $12.05 per hour. And actually, this week should have been the first time men and women who work as security officers would have seen that additional pay in their salaries. It should have come into effect on the 1st of September. However, what has happened is over the summer, 3 security companies brought a High Court challenge, which has basically stopped the employment regulation order from coming into effect. The judge granted permission to bring the challenge, and a stay has been placed on the order. So that prevents the minister from signing the employment regulation order and allowing security officers to enjoy that additional pay. Yeah, I'm sure security staff waiting for that pay increase must be absolutely furious about this, aren't they? Yeah, well, I mean, look at these are the people who have been working continuously throughout the pandemic. When the rest of us were staying at home, you know, they were out there protecting the assets, the property, protecting the public during the pandemic when, as I say, the rest of us were staying at home. It's also not helpful for the industry. Our members are operating in a very challenging recruitment environment, as many sectors are. We recently surveyed our members and found that 100% of those who responded are having difficulty with recruitment at the moment. And 74% of the respondents said that rates of pay and competition with other sectors is causing difficulty. So this does not help. Yeah, because on the face of it, like €12.05 an hour, although it's kind of substantially above the minimum wage, is not a lot, really. No, it's not. It's not. And you know, our members, you know, they want this increase to come into effect. They want the men and women working as security officers, and as I say, protecting all of us, keeping us safe and secure, to enjoy that small increase. So the situation is not helpful. It's not helpful for the officers on the ground, and it's not helpful for the companies in the security industry. And Sarah, are you party to, or we're in the High Court challenge that's put a stop to this for the moment? Were the grounds for objection to going ahead with this pay increase set out by the 3 companies that objected? I have not seen the objection that is lodged, but I believe you know, that they may be trying to they may be doubting the system that creates employment regulation orders, but our members are really, really confident that, you know, that the government has confidence in the system that oversees joint labour committees. It was revised a number of years ago, and at the time of indicating the intention to sign the legislation, Minister English was stated, and this is a quote from the government press release, the Security Industry Joint Labour Committee is a good example of how effective the reformed Joint Labour Committee system can be when representatives of employees and employers can agree a commonality of purpose in a sector.
Yes,
and it really is it really is a great system when representatives of employers, this is me speaking, when representatives of employers and employees can come together and agree better terms and conditions and better pay. That's a good result. And we want to see that result put into action.
I'm sure you do, as do all of the security industry staff, I'm sure even more so. And are the companies that objected then in the High Court, are they members of the Irish Security Industries Association or not?
No, they are not members of the ISIA. The members of the ISIA fully support the employment regulation order, and they fully support the Joint Labour Committee, the mechanism for negotiating employment regulation orders. Our members want to see this ERO come into effect.
So that actually could be a good pointer, I suppose, for people who may be looking for or thinking of applying for jobs in the security industry, that they're more likely to be much better treated by members of the Irish Security Industry Association than non-members, by the sound of it.
Well, look, I can only speak on behalf of our members, and our members want to see this ERO come into effect. The men and women who work as security officers throughout the state deserve this increase. As I already alluded to, these are the people who went out to work when most of us stayed at home. They worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic. If an office block was vacated, it still needed to be protected. There may have been small numbers going in and out. That required security. Our hospitals still needed to be kept safe and secure. Our government buildings required security. And our supermarkets kept going, as we all know, and security were there to ensure the safety and security of the staff, the shop, and you and me when we went to do our weekly shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many people are working in the security industry in those sort of roles that are affected by this dispute at the moment, Sarah?
Well, there are over 26,000 individuals who hold a license from the Private Security Authority, a license to work as a static guard. Now, not all of them may be working in the state, but we're talking about thousands and thousands of people who are affected by this.
That's a large number of people, obviously. And are they all back at work since the pandemic? Like, as you mentioned, a lot of the responsibilities continued on through the pandemic when lots of other people were staying at home, as you said, and the staff should be given great credit for continuing to show up like that. But since then, has employment levels resumed to kind of pre-COVID levels, or is there any ongoing effect?
Within the security industry, a lot of it kept going. Most of it kept going. There's different areas of private security. Guarding is one. There's electronic security. There's monitoring stations. There's cash in transit, and a lot of that had to just keep on going as normal throughout the pandemic. They didn't stop.
Yeah, I suppose back to this High Court challenge. I mean, when people hear of things going to court, their eyes roll up to heaven and think, "Oh, this could be ages and ages and ages." Have you a sense of how long it might take to have this dispute resolved in the High Court?
I believe that the case will be heard in November.
Okay, that's not too bad. I suppose it's not a long wait. And let's assume that there's a positive outcome from the point of view of government, yourself and the Irish Security Industries Association, and indeed all the employees in the security industry, and the challenges dismissed. I assume that the pay increases will be applied retrospectively then?
That's a very good question, and I don't actually know the definite answer to that. A few of our members have raised that with me this week. And I don't actually know the definitive answer to that. But it could be. It could be.
Yeah. Well, hopefully things will work out to the satisfaction of it. Particularly when all the three major parties, as I mentioned, government, yourselves in the Security Industries Association, and indeed the employees on the ground, literally on the ground, when they're all behind it, it does seem very unfortunate that there's an objection and there's a bit of a hiatus on all of this. So hopefully it'll work out for the best. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Morris.
Local issues talked about by local people. You're tuned to Community Radio Kilkenny City.
Community Radio Kilkenny City, keeping you company on 88.7 FM.